bring in Maruf Raza, because Maruf, in about 20 minutes, we're going to have what could herald a turning point in this entire campaign that Putin has unleashed on Ukraine. And what is that turning point? For the first time in the last 5 days, the two sides are going to come face to face. They're going to sit near the Belarusian border. Apparently, there are no preconditions for these talks, and the Ukrainians agreed to this only on the condition that there would be no preconditions. Now, Maruf, what do you make of this sudden decision to go for dialogue?
Rahul, there are a couple of things. I had written earlier this week, last week, to say that in conflicts like this, sometime after the first few days, there is the possibility of talks, because the attacking force, that is the Russians here, might find either that partial objectives have been achieved, that which they can negotiate with to try and reduce the conflict down to lesser days, or they might find that they have run into blockades which they had not anticipated. And hence, again, talks would allow them a room to gauge the determination on the part of the defenders here. The Ukrainians are involved, as to what extent they will stand their ground. Quite clearly, from the reports that I've been reading and assessments that I've been reading, it's very clear that to some extent Russian planning has gone, I would say, wrong, because they had not expected this kind of resistance. But the other side of the story is that the Russians had apparently planned for about a 2-week operation. We haven't yet seen the end of the first week. So if the talks don't really give us any results, and there is a strong possibility of that, because normally when talks take place, the first time, both sides dig their heels in and they're called off till more pressure is brought to bear on them to go back and talk and negotiate. This talking will also give the Ukrainians maybe a bit of respite to fortify themselves further. So the talks per se in the first time will not necessarily give you a completely satisfactory outcome. The second thing is that in conflicts like this, the problem gets further exacerbated or more challenging when a large part of reservists or civilians or territorial army, which is not the regular army, comes in with weapons. Because then it expands into fighting in built-up areas and an urban insurgency, which has been the quagmire for the Russians in Afghanistan, the Americans in Iraq and Kabul. And this could be the tactic that the West may be encouraging the Ukrainians to adopt. So we might see a lot of fighting. The third is the snows are likely to melt about 7th or 10th of March. When they do, the fast movement of Russian armored vehicles and tanks would get slowed down in the slush. Not that they cannot go through, because many of that equipment they have can even wade through waters and rivers. My final input is that I believe that what could be the long-term outcome of what we are seeing now is probably a kind of division of Ukraine on the lines that Germany was divided. So Germany became East and West Germany after the Berlin airlift, and then the Berlin Wall came up in '61. We have a river running through Ukraine, which really divides the country into two halves. The eastern side is about 40%, the western side is 60%.
Right.
And the population's leanings is also accordingly.
Yes.
So I might see that as an outcome and Kyiv becoming the new Berlin.
Well, very, very interesting. I think, Maruf, you've summed this up very well. Let me bring in Colonel Dinny also. Colonel Dinny, I just want to hold up for our viewers what the Kyiv Independent, which is a newspaper, has been saying, and they're quoting Ukraine's defense ministry. Russia's losses as of February 28th, 5,300 troops, 29 planes, 29 helicopters, 191 tanks, 74 military pieces, 816 armored personnel carriers, 1 Bay UK system, 21 Grad systems, 291 cars, 60 fuel tanks, 3 drones, 5 anti-aircraft warfare. And of course, there is this continuous claim on their behalf that they're also losing territory. Now, I want to very quickly bring you into this conversation because in the fog of war, we don't quite know what's happening. All we know is that there was a Russian advance, and I don't know if you can see this map, Colonel Dini, but this is Chernihiv. We just showed pictures from Chernihiv, which showed this town devastated. And this is where at least one Russian armored column was heading towards Kyiv. Outside of Kyiv, in this particular area, was a important, very important international air hub or military air hub, let me put it that way, which suddenly fell. Now, this is what the claim is. Now, we don't quite know if it's still in Russian hands or if it's not, but at least one of 3 of those airports is supposed to be in Russian hands. Then why has it become so difficult, Colonel Dini? We've seen the devastation, so quite clearly, it's not as if the Russians are not pounding positions. How have this advance been held up? Clearly, they have more forces, greater firepower. Where has it gone wrong, if at all, for Putin?
Rahul, I would like to, start off from where you left, that where has it gone wrong? I think we are slightly, making a judgment slightly prematurely, if I can put it that way, because what happened was, when the actual invasion, the assault, we don't call it anymore special military operation, it's a full-scale invasion into Ukraine. Till that particular point of time, in the information warfare domain, it was Russia which was a clear winner. I mean, the message was going across. Ukraine was in dire straits at that point of time because the threat of attacking was so powerful that Russia had everything under control. But once the invasion actually took place, since the last 5 days, we see a total reversal of this information warfare happening. And now you see the Ukrainian, everywhere, whether it is Twitter, whether it is any news, everywhere you find that the Ukrainians are giving a tough fight. The Ukrainian President Zelensky is there out leading from the front. You see massive, these kind of what you're showing at Chevensky and all those places, this destruction, and there is no news of what is happening from the Russian front. So, and today was the first day when I see that also a slight bit of a change which is happening now, that now actually it is not exactly like what it is there. Russia is also, is there meaning business there. So it is this particular facet of warfare is also happening there is what I'm trying to tell. Now, the second point is like what Maruf sir also was mentioning, that 5 days is a very less time to come to a conclusion that how this what is going to happen, but definitely it gives an indication, and that indications are, number one, yes, the Russians would have probably wanted a much more easier at least easier move into Kyiv and control of Kyiv. That did not happen. Now they have to literally have the fighting in the built-up area, the classical military.
So let me bring in Ivana Klimpush-Sindzadze, who's a Ukrainian politician and journalist and former Vice Prime Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. Important portfolio you've held, Ms. Sindzadze. I just want to ask you this. What's happened to the famed assault on Kyiv? It's been thwarted, it appears. The Russians are now issuing statements to say, evacuate, evacuate. What's the latest in the capital city of Ukraine, ma'am?
The city is being constantly attacked. The sirens are going on and off, and there are subversive groups around the city and in the city. There are paratroopers that have been brought in the city last night. There are fights around the city as well, but the city is holding, and the city is going to fight back. And definitely, the Ukrainian capital is a stronghold because it's both the armed forces, the territorial defense, and society that is pushing back on this brutal attack.
The Russians, of course, saying, and please feel free to tell us what your point of view on this is, Ms. Sindzadze, they're saying that the Ukrainian government is playing with common people's lives, that they have used them as human shields. What's your point of view on this?
Russia has started non-provoked, absolutely brutal, inhumane attack on my country. And people are standing along with the Ukrainian armed forces. We were not prepared for this comprehensive attack from all sides. And obviously we are lacking weapons, we are lacking helmets, we are lacking for territorial defense gear, armor, body armor, but that does not mean that Ukrainians are using civilians as shields. I mean, Russians are killing our people, our civilians. More than 360 civilians have died as of last night. Yes. 16 kids died. They are attacking ambulances. They are shooting on kindergartens. They are shooting on orphanages, and after that, they are telling us that we are using someone as a shield. This brutality that is happening has not been seen in the world since the World War II. And we have to understand that there is only one war criminal, and is Mr. Putin. And his machinery is, as a terrorist state, is attacking absolutely peaceful, democratic, life-loving people, as we are Ukrainians.
Now let's just talk about this dialogue that is supposed to begin in the next 10-12 minutes at 3:30 Indian Standard Time, which would be around, I think, 12 o'clock noon your time. What we're seeing, of course, is this area called Chernobyl and Chernihiv. Now, these two cities, one supposedly under Russian control, the other one seeing very, very oppressive shelling by the Russians. And it is from here that the advance on Kyiv is planned. So somewhere here, of course, is the Russian armored column, which was supposed to have entered Kyiv and taken it over. That, of course, hasn't happened. And Ms. Sindzadze has been saying that it's not happening because the Ukrainians are resisting. Now, would you say that you're going into this conversation from a position of strength, Ms. Sindzadze, or do you believe that the dice is rolled against you and nothing is going to come out of these talks?
We believe that Ukrainians have shown unbelievable courage, unbelievable strength, unbelievable unity. That is making our position absolutely strong. And finally, the whole world understands that we need reinforcement, that we need additional push from the international community against Russian Federation with financial, economic sanctions, with particular package of hitting Russian economy, so that Putin finally would understand that this is ruining his country and not our country, what he has started. And also we need a massive military reinforcement in order to live and in order to continue protecting ourselves.
What do you think your delegation is going to do? Are they going to stall for time? Are they going to reject this dialogue offer totally and say, look, there's no question of us even prolonging this dialogue. These are our terms. If you can meet them or take a walk. What's the approach going to be?
We have to use any chance to, if there is tiniest chance to talk, we should try it, and that's what they are going to do. I think the maximum that one can get from there, at least maybe some understanding on the nuclear targets that they've been conquering or trying to attack nearby, that we could exclude that from this fighting at this particular moment. But that's, I think that would be the best we can get from the world. It's not us. The world can get from these talks.
Okay, so viewers, I just want you to get a sense really of the situation on the ground. Let's cut to this big plasma screen right behind me. This is how the ambush has taken place, and this is where this invasion has been focused. So this is Kharkiv, which is the second biggest city in Ukraine, where you have the fight that is going on the ground. There are reports that come from Russia to suggest that Kharkiv has fallen. The Ukrainians say that that's not true. We've fought back and turned the tide in Kharkiv. So obviously this is something that is subject to confirmation. Lugansk, one of the breakaway provinces, yes, it's a Russian takeover. Crimea, a few years back, viewers, the Russians marched into Crimea and took it over. Kherson, Russia takes over. That's what is supposedly the situation there. Konotop, Russia has taken over Konotop. So mostly in the east, the Russians have been able to make quick advances and are holding on to ground there. Chernihiv, Russia takes over. That's what we're being told. We've got visuals from there showing how the city has been pounded. And of course, the fight on the ground in Kyiv is really where the story is. Now, when we come back, and thank you, madam, for speaking to us, and God be with you, and hope you're safe. I just wanted to very quickly ask you, are you still in Kyiv, or have you left the capital?
Outskirts of Kyiv.
Outskirts of, are you close to the fighting then, or are you on the other side of the bank of the river?
I can hear some of those
okay, well,
things that are happening.
Well, God be with you, and I hope that we can speak again and under more favorable circumstances. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for speaking under these very trying conditions. War of attrition, viewers. Ukraine fighting back. The Russian advance stalled. Colonel Dini, Maruf Raza are with us. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we're going to ask them to break this down. What's going to happen at the all-important talks table in about 10 minutes?